Welcome, welcome back to the Peace Build. My name is Nicholson, and this is a channel where I like to speak on cultivating human beings. Not human doings, not human thinkings, but human beings. And I have been speaking about a series of information, starting from the foundation, next with finding your path, and third with evolving the path that you found to cultivate yourself as a human being. Across my journey on this earth, 27 years now I've been on this planet, as far as I know, I have seen that the way to well-being is not just standing still, it is growing to your peak potential. And if you aren't growing to your peak, you're doing the opposite, because life is dualistic. There's nowhere to stand. It is in action. So this is how to mature this action into something that you can look back on your deathbed and say, I had a great time here. So no matter what path you go on, you have to go into the unknown. Because if everything you've ever experienced is in the known, and you want to go somewhere new, you have a new desire because you have established a new sense of balance within yourself. Everything that you could ever want that you don't have right now is in the unknown. So you have to go there. And this is a realm of experience that most people fear, but our ancestors, for generations and generations, have continually encountered the unknown for us to enjoy the lives that we live today. It is no accident that we are living in a time of incredible convenience and comfort. Because there was a time when people, just like you and me, we had the same capabilities, were surrounded by a lack of information, but somehow they still had a course of action in their mind. And this is the key point when traveling into the unknown, is that you will always have a lack of information. And today, in the information age, where the flow of data is abundant, we encounter this fear that if I don't have an abundance of information about this specific journey, which you won't because it's unprecedented, then it's not safe enough for me to walk on. But this isn't the case. We are actually evolutionarily wired to go into situations with limited amounts of information to clear our mind for action. See, action is the most powerful catalyst of clarity. We think that it is reading books, listening to YouTube videos, watching other people act. But really, the only way you can clear something up is you have to bring it into the existence, and the existence is action. If we look at the word existence, we can chop it up into exit and stance. So to exit is to move out. To stand, or stance is to stand. So the existence is to move out and appear out of nothing. Just like the unknown is nothing as far as you know from the known. So along the way, to travel anywhere, you need knowledge. Knowledge is something that you know that's a ledge that you can stand on to get to where you want to go. So when I look around here, I'm using the faculty of knowledge of my attention, and I understand that there is a clear ground for me to walk on. This is knowledge. But if I'm going into the unknown, how do I gather knowledge about what to do? How do I gather a clue about how to travel into a place I've never been before? How do I gain the necessary courage to do that? Well, when we look across the existence, we can see that there are elements that make up everything. No matter where you go in the creation on earth, there are elements that make up all of it. And the ones that we typically speak about are earth, air, water, which there's a body of water over there, and fire, which is the sun. But there's another element called akash, or ether, or space, whichever words you want to use. This is the glue that keeps all the elements together. And this is the most mysterious element because we can't perceive it with the external senses that were given to us. But intuitively, we can understand that most of life is actually empty space. When we look around the creation, we see that what's bridging everything together is actually the medium through which the elements that we can see through our sense perceptions are playing around. So you can only hear what I'm saying because there's a space within you. You can only see what I'm saying because there's a space within you, and so on. If there was no space, there would be no room to do anything. So this is the fundamental element, in my opinion, that we need to develop a relationship with, or else we won't be able to see much of anything. And this is actually the element that has been the most ignored in our culture because we live in an information age, an age of incredible comfort and convenience and consumption, where space is feared. We have been conditioned to look at what we can see, what we can measure, and we have ignored the immeasurable. But again, everything you want is in the unknown, and the unknown is immeasurable. But there is an element within nature that is also immeasurable. So let's take a closer look at that. So what's within this space is not just emptiness. It is actually the intelligence, as I said, that holds everything together. It is the memory. It is the field of impressions that have been gathered across the entire existence. And it is also a field of intelligence. So if you tap into this emptiness, this akash, this open sky, if you will, within you and on the outside, you will be able to tap into the universal field of data, which means you will have access into the unknown from where you sit right now. This may seem like magic or woo-woo or whatever you want to label it as. But if you look closely at your experience and every other great person who has gone into the unknown, they have all used this element. They have to. So there's a few examples in culture, in my life, that I want to illustrate using this element of Akash that has allowed characters to evolve on their path. So the one that we all probably know about is The Lion King, where Simba, the main character who thought he murdered his own father because he was deceived by Scar. Scar represents an emotional wound that has been carried in to the present that continually creates trauma. So he goes off into the unknown. He goes off into the jungle by himself, away from his original home, seeking some kind of solace. He doesn't know where it is, but he knows it's not where he's at right now. So as he's wandering by himself in this solitude, in this empty space, in this Akash, he runs into a wise baboon, Rafiki. Rafiki in Swahili means friend. And in this case, to take your mind into a larger, more bird's eye view context, we can look at these characters as different parts of our own mind. So Simba is like the ego. He is the lion. He's like the sun. In astrology, your sun is like the ego as well. And Rafiki is like your intuition. Intuition, if we break this word down, I've said this before, but just to make this a coherent speech, I want to explain it again. In obviously means intuition, comes from the word tuition. When you pay for your schooling, you pay for tuition. So inside, you get taught from inside. If you pay attention, instead of paying dollars to an institution, if you pay attention inside, you will receive intuition, and you'll be guided from within to go where it is your soul wants to go. So Simba runs into Rafiki, and the first encounter he has with him, on the screen you can see he's what? He's meditating. And if you look at the environment, it's very open, and there's actually a dark sky. There is a sense of nothingness around him. There is a sense of akash, a sense of space, of ether. There is a illustration that he is in tune with the fabric of existence as he's sitting there. So he's very still. He's very knowledgeable about the happenings of life because he is weaving himself in with life. He has insight on how things work. So Simba, because he's wandering around, he's in a state of fear. He has been affected by someone else's scar that has infiltrated his own system, and he doesn't know what to do, doesn't know which way is up or down. So he runs into Rafiki, his own intuition. And they have a short conversation where he says something like some nonsense that Simba doesn't understand. And this is what your intuition will do when you first encounter it, is that it will tell you things that make no sense to you because you're not in that operating system. So there needs to be a sense of adjustment to be able to trust yourself, to trust the influx of new information that you're getting from within. We are so used to receiving new information from the outside that when we receive new information from within us, we completely discount it as something that is immeasurable. We ask, where did this come from? How do we validate this? Where is this in my schooling? No one told me about this, so this must be mumbo jumbo, just like what Simba thought. But then what Rafiki does is he tells Simba something that is very important to him acting in the world. This is very important to understand, that your intuition will not give you a complex philosophy to waste your time with. It's going to give you a insight that will allow you to have a clear course of action to go into the unknown. So Simba goes to him and says, my father is dead. The man he's looking for direction, Mufasa, his organizing principle. He says, this has died. So within me, within you, if Simba says Mufasa has died, this means the sense of order has died within us as well. Therefore, we are wandering through the space of life. And then Rafiki says, you're wrong. He's alive. And Simba says, what are you talking about? I saw him die. I killed him. It was my mistake. He's dealing with so much shame and guilt. He's on these lower chakras of life. Therefore, he can't see the higher things that's above him. But because Rafiki is still, he's weaved in with the fabric of life. He's intuitive. He can see way more than Simba. So he says he's alive, and I'll show him to you. And Simba's like, what? What are you talking about? Because before he says that, he says, you're Mufasa's boy. He's never met this Rafiki, he's never met this friend, but he identifies exactly who he is. He goes past all of his lower defensive mechanisms, and he points out who he is at his core. Then his son wakes up within him, his willpower wakes up, and he remembers what he wants. So then he follows this strange voice. Although it is different, it is familiar at the same time. And they're conveniently on the edge of a forest. So Rafiki says, I'll show him to you. Let's go into the forest. So as they're wandering through the forest, well, Simba's wandering, but Rafiki knows exactly where he's going. And when we look at the scene, we can see how thick and dark and scary the jungle looks to Simba, because Simba has never been there. But Rafiki is going this way and this way and this way. He knows exactly where to go. So the thickness of this forest, it represents the thickness of your own psyche that you have not looked at, because you're so much wandering on the outside. You have not taken the time to go this way. And the first time you do that, it's going to appear chaotic, because there's not been any sense of attention there. There's a sense of neglect. And anything you neglect will run into a state of entropy. So this is what he's maneuvering through now. But because he is following his friend Rafiki, he is following his intuition. The ego that is confused is following the intuition through the density of the forest, through the disorganized mind. He's putting all of his faith to reach the clearing. So he's running. He has this terrified look on his face, and Rafiki's just smiling at him like, isn't this great? So it was like, no, this is terrible. And this is why people don't follow their heart, because it looks horrifying. But this is what we must do to change our lives. If the known that we have now is not what we want, then we must do something different. We must listen to a different operating system. So they're running, and they get to this point where Rafiki, the friend, says, stop right here. And they always get a point where you need to pause. Because as I said, intuition will give you a course of action. It's not going to drag you out on these long philosophies where you can waste your time and be up in your head. It wants you to become an agent instead of an academic. And then they get to the point where they're walking down into this clearing. And then Rafiki says, look down there. He's there. The organizing principle, Mufasa, the being that you were looking for, he's down there. So Simba, he turns into this infantile expression, and he climbs his way down to the opening. And what we see there is a reflective pool. This is very symbolic of reflection of yourself. You're looking at yourself. And water is representing the emotion. So Simba's emotions are very all over the place. He can't see where he's going, so he must reach a still, reflective pool. Perfect. Machines. Hey. I came over here so I could avoid machinery, and one came right to me. Okay, so he's wandering down into the reflective pool so he can see himself. And then the first thing Simba says when he reaches the reflecting pool is he says, that's not Mufasa. That's not the person I'm looking for. That's just my reflection. So the first thing we do when we turn inward and we try to seek out our intuition so we can gain more information about the medium of creation so we can move forward. The first thing we see is a distorted view, because we are perceiving ourselves through the social conditioning in which we have got to this point where we are now, the same conditioning that hasn't worked. And this is what will appear first, because this is what we have been supporting our whole lives. But Rafiki, the intuition, says, no, look again. He says, respect yourself. Re means again, spect means to look. He says, no, look harder. Look closer at yourself, look closer at your emotions so you can still them out. And he's looking, because water is a deep element. It may look glittery on the surface, but it's very deep. You can't see the bottom, so you have to continue to look. And as he's looking, he's staring at this. And then he sees what? Mufasa. He sees the organizing principle that he was looking for the whole time. And he hears it first. Simba. Simba. And he looks up to the sky. And there he is. He sees a manifestation of what he was looking for the whole time. But it's important to understand that he saw it in his reflection. So the man, the being, the order he was looking for, that he thought was out there from a being that he thought he killed, was actually within him the whole time. But he wouldn't have known that if he didn't follow his intuition through the chaos and he didn't wander away from the typical setting and where he existed. The same setting where he had a scar. So he removed himself from the wound to reach a clearing in ether to meet his intuition. And then when he had a conversation with this being of wisdom, he reaches what he wanted. And then by the end of it, he goes back to use this newfound sense of intuition. He remembers who he is. He remembers his direction. And then he goes back to face Scar. He finds out that Scar was the one who killed him. They regain Pride Rock, and you know the whole story. So, a children's story. But if you relate this psychologically to your life as a human being, you can see how it creates a pattern of self-discovery, self-cultivation, creation, and distribution. So if you don't know which way to go, we can see across the whole existence that it is following these three steps. I'm doing this, the butterflies are doing this, the trees are doing this, the hawks, everything is in this pattern of 1, self-cultivation, 2, creation, 3, distribution. So if we take an acorn as an example, put it into the ground, it's cultivating itself using the elements around it as a support system. And then it creates other acorns from the top of its maturity, and then these seeds get distributed across creation. And this is how it expands. This is how the oak tree expands its self, its influence into the unknown and propagates across the world. There's an excellent clip on YouTube that shows only that scene of Mufasa being embodied within Simba. It's great. It made me cry multiple times when I was trying to figure myself out. So another example of intuition in my life was when I was in New Mexico and I had this brilliant idea of climbing to a sacred space called Lake Nambe. I believe that's what it's called. And this was roughly a 7-mile hike at 11,000 feet above sea level. Very challenging situation. But I thought I could do it. I was feeling very bold. And when I drove up there, what I didn't anticipate was that there would still be snow on the path. I had never been that high above sea level before. And over here, when it reaches this time of the year, there's absolutely no snow. So in my limited brain, I thought, yeah, there will be no snow up there. I'll be fine. But I was not fine. So I was walking through this forest. There's nobody around. It's so quiet you could hear a pin drop. And I'm wearing hiking boots, and these boots are supposed to protect you from the elements, so I bought them. But what I didn't understand is that when snow gets inside of your boots, it gets wet. And when it gets wet and cold, your feet start to freeze up. Didn't have a lot of knowledge about that because I was in the unknown. But I thought it's fine. If I just thaw my foot out when I get the chance with my breath, I'll be absolutely okay. And I didn't decide to do that until about 2.5 hours in, past the point that said Pico Wilderness, where you're pretty much on your own. So I'm climbing, climbing, climbing. I'm getting closer to the lake because I see the river that is connected to the lake. This is a good sign. But what's not a good sign is that my left foot, becomes like an ice block and I can barely feel it. So I get to the point where I decide to thaw it out. I decide to go with my plan. And as I'm unthawing my foot, thought I was unthawing my foot, I realize that it's not working. And my mind says, you're going to lose your foot. And I do what any self respecting human being would do in this situation. I start running back down the mountain. I was afraid, not going to lie. I was in fight or flight mode because there was no one around. I'm 2 miles into this snow capped mountain hike. I've realized I have failed the mission, and my foot is very close to being amputated because it's so cold I can barely feel it. So this is an incredibly extreme situation for me. I was in the unknown, very deep in the unknown. And I was thankful that I didn't twist my ankle on the way back because I was in quite the rush trying to save myself, save my foot. But as I'm running down the mountain, I realized that this is too far away. My senses come back to me. I'm 2 hours in. There's no way I'm going to make it if I run. If I try to run the whole way, I'm going to slip. Something not good's going to happen. So at this point, I'm hungry. I am cold. And my heart is beating very fast. And my whole body is getting lightheaded. So I'm experiencing a system shutdown. And had no idea what to do in this situation. Hadn't heard about anyone that's been in this situation. I had no memory of it because I had never been there. I was in the unknown. But what guidance I got from this was a teaching from within that you need to slow down. You need to be still so you can gain insight about what's really going on. See, outside it looked bad, but as I look on it now, it wasn't that bad. So I was told in my state of minor panic that you need to stop everything right now. You're running out of breath, your heart is beating, there's no way. If you try to continue, you might die. So I do that, I close my eyes, and I listen, and I feel my foot, and I take in the stillness of the environment, because although it was extreme, there was a lack of machinery in that place. So my ability to receive information was as clear as my hand. So I pause in this moment. I regain my composure because of this intuitive guidance. And I accept. This might sound extreme as well, but I accept that I might lose my foot. But what I will gain is the rest of my body. That's just what it was. So slowly I'm walking back with this block of a foot, calmly just enjoying myself, really. Because I'm in the thick of it. Just like Simba, I was in the thick of it. There's not much help out there. So I needed to listen to my own Rafiki. And my own Rafiki saw the beauty in such a dangerous situation. And when I perceived this beauty in this stillness, I gained this confidence that I was going to find my way back. And I knew I would keep my foot. Didn't know how I was going to, but I just knew I would. And as we can see here, it's fine. And I'm very grateful. So, just like Simba, just like myself, if you find that you're in a situation where everything around you is unfamiliar, there was always a sense of familiarity within you. You're always connected to the medium of creation that goes across the entire creation. And If you trust this, you will be able to evolve your path even if it seems like the obstacles are impossible. The Akash is like an ocean, and everything we drop into this ocean, every action we take, every thought we have, every attitude we have, how we wear our hair, how we speak, the friends that we have, literally everything we do, it puts an impression on this Akash. And the Akash remembers it. And it creates a ripple across the element. And this ripple creates a feedback loop that flows back into your life, into your existence. And the result of this feedback is the reality that you are experiencing right now. So if you just learn to be very careful with what you create, what you throw out into the universe, knowing that it is alive, it is conscious, the space that's around us is aware, then you will learn to make best friends with the unknown. The mystery will become your ally instead of what you perceive to be as a fearful enemy. Before you eat your food, take time to pause, take time to have some space. When you're talking to someone, don't just wait to respond. Don't create ripples in your mind. Just be still with them. And then a reply will come out. Discernment is something that happens to you. It's not something that you actually create. If you watch the existence close enough within yourself, the life process, you will see that your ability to decide is not your own. It happens to you. And the longer you sit with yourself and digest the experience around you, take time away from consumption, you will be, in a way, digested by the existence. You will be burned up, just as you eat an apple and it becomes digested into a human being over the course of time. If you sit here long enough, you will become like the existence over the course of time. We're sitting in a sort of stomach, if you will, an existential pot of an existential pot of bliss that just burns you up to the point where there's nothing left. There's no conditioning left. There's no social rules left. There's only the truth. And ultimately, what is watching all of our actions is not some personal authority. It is the truth. So becoming best friends with the truth, with the medium of action, is how you know what to do, even if you've never been there. And this is how you become a great leader within this game board of humanity. This is how I give all my talks. This is how I come up with the ideas to speak. I've been working with this element since I was 8 years old, on accident, because I asked, where did God come from? And I realized that it's empty space. Because when I asked that question, my mind went blank. So this is what has given me the peace and the wisdom and the clarity to do all good things in my life. And whenever I have deviated from this, my life has gone in the toilet. If you try to act without space, if you try to only act within the 4 elements and forget the 5th one, your life will be full of unnecessary effort. You will run into failure after failure after failure because you're not considering the whole picture. You're only considering what most people see. This is a channel that's dedicated to considering what most people don't see. And when you do that, success is assured. You just have to allow it to happen. Be open to it. Not open with your mind, because the mind is a closed system. Being open with your consciousness. The only avenue we have into openness, into receiving this intelligence, is this moment here. So if you have the heart, if you have the bravery to be open to this moment, then you have access to the entire Akash. And you become universal. And therefore, what comes out your mouth, what comes out your actions will be universal as well. So you'll win. You will win. So this is all I have here for today. This is one of the most important videos I will ever produce. And if you're uncomfortable with pauses like that, then you should watch the video again and learn how important it is to just be here. So if you found this video to be valuable, leave a like, comment, subscription. If you need help navigating this element, if this found a sense of interest within you and you want to know more about it through one-on-one conversation, I consult with people from across the world. This is my life's work. You can go to the link in my bio to have that conversation. I would love to speak with you. So share this with your friends, family, whatever you feel like is good for your well-being. And I'll see you on the next episode of The Peace Belt. Have a good day. Peace.